Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Unit 4. Today I'm going to give you an overview of where we are and where we're headed, and to give you a sense of what the lesson work should entail for the week. But I'd like to start with a note about the midterm report cards and your marks. So, as you know, because an email was sent out to you, I believe last week, your midterm mark has been calculated, and that's the mark that will be on your report card. That mark comes from the first 2 units worth of course material. So where we kind of are in the course right now is an interesting place. We're starting Unit 4. I have to keep moving forward because this course is going to end in the first week of February, I believe, is when the switch over from semester 1 to semester 2 happens. So I'm moving forward. There are a lot of people who dropped out of the course because I guess it was too hard or because e-learning's not their thing, but many of you are also behind, and that's reflected in your report card mark. To give you a sense of what the range is, it's everywhere from failing to level 4. I've got a student who's in level 4, I've got students who are in level 3, I also have students who are passing with like a 52, so just barely scraping by. But I do want you to know that that mark is calculated based on units 1 and 2. So unit 3, actually, we're about 2/3 of the way through unit 3 when the switchover happened. And I expect by now everybody should be done their unit work for that unit and should have done the test and should be moving on to unit 4. For those of you who are behind, just so that you're aware of where we're at, this course isn't an all-year course. This is like all your other courses. It's going to end at the beginning of February. And so you're going to have all of your work in advance of that, like basically by the time that your exams start in your school, so that I can mark it and report on it. So, you hand in work to me on the last day of school, I'm probably not going to have a chance to mark it before I have to put my report cards in. So just to be aware of that this course is like every other course, even though we're kind of flexible with deadlines and stuff within the course, and there are a lot of you who are about a unit behind, to be honest. Like we're starting unit 4, and there's a fair amount of people in the course who are still kind of in the first half of unit 3. If you're willing to get caught up, though, I mean, that's kind of up to you. And with Christmas holidays coming up, you're going to have a 2-week time where you could theoretically get caught up. But then again, who wants to be working on e-learning during their holiday, right? So overall, what am I getting at? What I'm getting at is to just be aware as grade 11 students that a big deadline is approaching. The end of the course is approaching in a few months, right? We're like towards the end of November. So we're looking at December, January. You've got a couple of months to finish 2 more units, because we've got unit 4 and then unit 5, and also a big project at the end of the course, and get caught up on anything you're behind on. So just be aware, for those of you who are behind, that I'm encouraging you to get caught up. And I guess that takes me to what I want to get to next, which is the test. So I see that most of you have accessed the test and you completed it, which is good. That test was designed for the benefit of people who have been staying current in the course. I feel that there has to be a reward for working hard, and for those of you who have stuck with it and you've been current, you hopefully found that test was pretty simple and straightforward. For those of you who've been allowing yourselves to get behind, you probably found that test was really hard. Or at least harder than it should have been, because it wasn't a really difficult test when you think about it. You did a group work activity, and then I asked you some questions, some response type questions based on the group work. So that, I guess, would be even more of an incentive for those of you who are staying current. That was for your benefit, and there'll be more benefits for staying current and to keeping up. For those of you who allowed yourself to get behind, that's an indication of what can happen to you if you allow yourself to get behind, especially when you get to those last 2 questions where it asks you, rate your performance in the group work activity, and all you did was join a group. There's not a whole lot you can say about yourself, and you can be pretty sure that your group mates are going to say the same thing. They're not going to lie and say that you were a instrumental member when all you did was say, hi, I want to be in the group, all right? So Where are we now? We're in Unit 4, and we're going to get away from group work and back to individual work for a unit. We'll get back to some group work in the unit afterwards, though. And the idea of like the lab, I think, is going to come back in this unit too. Those social science labs, by the way, those are my creation. What I do is I have a look at what's actually on the course, and at times I think that the projects that are there aren't maybe as good as what I could come up with. Sometimes they are, and I keep them. But the social science labs are an idea that I've added to the course, and I've gotten some pretty good feedback and some very good results from a lot of you. So I want to bring that back, and the first activity you're going to do is a lab that involves you reading the newspaper or watching the news either online or on television. So Machiavelli was a writer back in the 1500s, and he wrote this book called The Prince, which is basically like a hand guide for, you know, how should you rule a country. And Machiavelli was a realist. What he did was he said, well, you know, yes, there are the ways that things should work, but then there's the ways that things actually do work. So for example, in theory, it'd be great if everybody in the country loved you as leader, as king or as president. It would be great if everybody loved you. But if you had to make the choice between do you want people to love you or fear you, as a good king or leader, you should want the people to fear you, because if the people fear you, they will be afraid to disobey. Whereas if they love you, they'll be more likely to disobey, thinking that it's going to be okay with you. And you can kind of, you know, think about your experience in school. You probably try to get away with a lot more when you've got a teacher who is really friendly and wants to be friends with you than when you've got a teacher who's ultra strict and you know you can't goof around in their class, right? So Machiavelli taught that you should want to be feared rather than loved. He taught that the ends justify the means, which means it doesn't matter how I do something as long as I get it done. So if I need to, I don't know, capture and kill opposition members in my country in order to make sure that there's no rebellion that happens and I keep my government safe, then it doesn't matter that I had to round them up and put them into prison camps. The ends justify the means. So the stability of the country makes everything else okay. And there are some other teachings as well in this video. If you wanted to read the whole text of The Prince, which I didn't even have to do in my first year of university, I just had to read excerpts from it. But the whole text of The Prince is there if you want to read the whole thing, or just watch the 10-minute video, which gives a pretty good summary of some of the key teachings. You're going to learn a little bit about Machiavelli, and then you're going to look for his teachings in the news. So for example, do you see examples of countries acting in a way where the ends justify the means? Like they do something that isn't exactly good, but they do it in order to like make sure that things go well for their country. So a good example of that might be an act of war, right? The ends justifying the means could mean that, well, we know that killing people is wrong, but by bombing this city, we were able to eliminate a threat to our own country, and so we feel that we did the right thing. Look for examples of leaders being feared rather than loved. Look for examples of people, there being a difference between the way that people should act and the way that they do act. Those 5 different teachings that you're going to come across in the video, figure out what those are, learn about them, and then just basically watch the news, the headlines, for example. If you're watching TV news and you watch the international part and you'll see what's going on in the news today, just think, you know, do I see Machiavellian thinking in the way that leaders act today? That's essentially what we're looking for. You're going to start by making a hypothesis. So you've got this 500-year-old thinker who has these ideas that are pretty harsh. Do you think that you're going to see a lot of that happening in the world today? Do you think that we've moved on from that and we act in a way that's different? So you make your hypothesis and then you run through the lab the same way that you run through any lab. The assignment that's coming after that is going to be kind of a mind map. For those of you who love those mind map activities, we're going to have one slightly different though. It's a future wheel, which is like mind mapping, only the things just keep going out, farther and farther out in a cause and effect kind of way. So the idea being that, I think the example I gave you had to do with drinking coffee. Like if I drink a lot of coffee tonight, I'll be able to stay up late to finish my assignment. But if I stay up late to finish my assignment, I'm going to be tired tomorrow. And if I'm tired tomorrow, I'm not going to learn very much in my math class. So by drinking this cup of coffee right now, I'm going to end up not learning much in math class tomorrow. And the future wheel is that type of brainstorming, only goes out into multiple directions. So that's going to be assigned to you by the end of the week. So you'll have the first 2 lessons of Unit 4 to cover, and Unit 4 is going to last for 3 weeks. Unit 5 will also last for 3 weeks, and Unit 6 is going to be the last week of the course, I believe. So that culminating activity, I should say. So just to summarize, we're halfway through the course. If you're behind, it's up to you to get caught up. I'm always here to help, but you do have to approach me first. Be aware that we are going to get this course over with eventually, and so you got to make sure that you don't end up behind. We are going to into Unit 4 right now, and then Unit 5, and then a project, and then we're going to be done. And the unit we're on right now is going to get back to individual work, and it has a lot to do with those labs that we did in previous units. All right, as always, get in touch with me if and when you need to.